Leo's insights are presented to challenge, inform, and encourage you in your quest to break free from school-based approaches to education. Building upon a foundation of unschooling, we sincerely hope these insights help you to consider how education can be truly unlimited.
Last week, I discussed how nostalgia made my listening to a nearly 20-year-old broadcast session about homeschooling interesting. Today, I would like to share the other reason this experience grabbed my attention. I must admit that when I initially listened to these sessions in 2002, I was, well, nearly 20 years younger and also 20 years less experienced in the field of education. Now approaching 35 years experience in the home education venture, I have come to know things I did not know or believe in 2002, which would have been about halfway through the approximate 40-year history of the modern day North American home education movement. While I did observe that many things may have changed in home education since that time, there is one thing that hasn't, and I believe it remains the biggest obstacle to home-based learning. That is, who calls the shots? Now, to be sure, there have been great improvements, and time has shown us that home education generally produces better overall results when comparing to school-based learning. We may be more free, yet there remains an overarching problem that, if not addressed, will see the eventual demise of home education in this province, country, and abroad. And that problem is we are still home schooling. I know, it may only be a term used interchangeably with home education or unschooling. However, the base philosophy of the movement remains largely unchanged from the days when home education was in its infancy. We have never gotten past the idea that something outside the family sets the standards for what should be learned, when, and how. The session I listened to reminded me that back then we used the existing government as the bearer of educational standards and expectations. We constantly compared ourselves to it and did our best to best the system. Home-based learning started with the idea that we could do better than school, and indeed it does. But improving on a flawed system is not really a victory. A better bad is hardly an improvement. Today, we remain almost steadfast in our belief that government has the right and responsibility to educate the children, and we align ourselves accordingly. We ask its permission, follow its outlines, measure against its standards, if we can, repeat its methodologies, insist that every child learn everything that is expected of a well-rounded student, even if it is not in keeping with the child's abilities. And we seek government's approval in the form of high school accreditation. We are still mostly trying to school our children in something or everything rather than towards a particular thing. While we might consider following the government program within a Christian framework, it is still the government that we follow, not God. At no time during this session of prose did anyone ascribe the standards to God. The closest they got was in mentioning the importance of instilling godly character in the students, which I continue to heartily applaud. And there was talk of parents burning out. Why are they burning out? Could it be because parents are trying to fit the family circle into the government's square hole? And why are we saying we want to instill godly character and then measure how well we have done by comparing them to the world's schools standards without ever questioning what this standard is, who sets it, or whether God approves of this system for that matter? I imagine that the first time I heard this broadcast, I was in agreement. This time, all I could do was ask, where is the faith? You cannot pretend to be on the narrow road by Christianizing the attributes of the broad road. I know what school looks like. A home school is not really that different because we tend to unquestioningly put our trust in man and his institutions. If we desire to truly serve God, we will have to be different. Only then can we possibly make a difference in our children or in this world. Following what everyone else is doing will result in the same thing, not something unique and different. Finally, the example that was presented as a model of homeschool's success in this presentation, while likely a good guy, demonstrated an almost copycat thinking pattern to what is found in schools. When asked what he inspired to do with his life, he first shared his ambition of becoming the President of the United States without stating any desire to be a servant of the Most High God. I am certain that he has not achieved his worldly ambition, and I can only pray he found the mark of the high calling. We do not home educate to get better school products. While we must be striving to help our children become the best they can be, they should be in keeping with the directives of the one who created them in the first place, not those who claim to know better. After listening to that whole presentation, I realized I can no longer agree with home schooling or schooling at all, especially if schooling insists on a conformity of standard behavior that honors government above and before God.
We trust you were blessed by today's presentation. For more helpful information to guide you in your home education journey, please visit educationunlimited.ca and leogaumont.com. Be sure to like us and share us on Facebook.